Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. The long-awaited Clansman gang trial is now underway at the home circuit. Online challenges still a concern for educational stakeholders. And later in sports, Reggae Boys' next home World Cup qualifier set for the National Stadium. I'm Shane Masters. Here are the details. Alleged gangster Andre Blackman Bryant this morning pleaded not guilty to leading the Spanish Town St. Catherine-based Clansman gang One Gang when he appeared in the Home Circuit Division of the Supreme Court in downtown Kingston. Mr. Bryant's 32 cronies, including a female, also pleaded not guilty to being part of a criminal organization. The alleged gangsters, who the police say are accountable for murders, conspiracy to commit murder, arson between 2015 and 2019, will be tried under the Criminal Justice Suppression of Criminal Organizations Act, commonly called the Anti-Gang Act and the Firearm Act. The Crown began laying out its case minutes after 10 o'clock before Chief Justice Brian Sykes. The trial, which is being heard in 2 separate courtrooms, also involves 40 attorneys and 43 prosecution witnesses. In the meantime, the trial of the 33 members of the St. Catherine-based Clansman gang prompted an elevated security presence in the area surrounding the Supreme Court in downtown Kingston today. As we've been reporting, several intersections near the court were blocked to vehicular traffic. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey says it's strictly for security reasons.
Our intention is to ensure that everyone who is associated with the case, be it prosecutors, be it defense counsel, be it witnesses, they are well secured, and the general public on a whole.
As it relates to the case, Mr. Bailey says the police have done all they can to present a strong case before the court.
The bottom line is the police continues to do our work, to do our investigation. We would have secured the best evidence that is available to us and presented it to the prosecutors, who make the determination in terms of charges, and we await the determination of the court, which is independent, and they will interpret the evidence that is available. Our intention is to ensure that justice is done.
To a major development coming out of the United States now. Starting November, only fully vaccinated adult foreign visitors will be allowed to enter the country. The new rules will require all foreign nationals arriving in the United States to show proof of being fully vaccinated. Additionally, foreign nationals will have to be tested 3 days prior to departure to the U.S. and show proof of a negative test. The lifting of blanket restrictions on travel to the United States from certain countries will come as welcome news to thousands of foreign nationals with families in the U.S. who have been kept apart for almost the entire pandemic. Jamaica's COVID-19 case count has passed the 80,000 mark. This as 733 new cases of the virus were confirmed in the last 24 hours from 1,760 samples, pushing the overall case count to 80,406. The positivity rate is 39.8%. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 hospitalization remains above the 700 mark. 721 people have been hospitalized with the virus. 43 are critically ill, while 100 are severely ill. There are 27,137 active cases in the country. COVID-19 has claimed 3 more lives: a 71-year-old male from St. Thomas, a 37-year-old male from St. Mary, and a 49-year-old female from St. Mary. 5 deaths are under investigation. The death toll stands at 1,794. The Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools has been reacting to the latest RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll's findings on online learning. The association's president, Linvern Wright, says he is not surprised. Shamala Pullen reports.
72% of respondents to the latest RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll revealed online teaching has not been effective. Another 64% of persons said face-to-face classes must be resumed. President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Linvern Wright, says this was expected.
We really have had to be making the best of the situation that we have had, but it just has not been adequate, as I keep on saying. It was an attractive proposition when we spoke about online learning, but it is not effective, and our children really are feeling it as a result. Face-to-face learning is what really is the effective thing in the particular context, but we know that we are in a spike now, and it is something that we have to look at.
And Mr. Wright says with 3 weeks into the academic year, the challenges to online learning continue.
Things have not been as expected. Those schools who have the facilities in terms of their children being online and the parents being able to afford it would be okay. But as I have said in another forum, I don't know that the internet connectivity across the island has been so improved that we can look to see that we're going to have more students on. So we are very concerned as principals about that.
The Education Ministry said with quite a number of students missing online classes, it is making efforts to get students back into face-to-face classes soon. The plan was also to get at least 65% of schools vaccinated for them to go back face-to-face in October. However, that fell through after the Health Ministry announced last week that it suspended the administering of the Pfizer vaccine, which is only approved for children 12 years and over. The Ministry of Health was also unclear when the next shipment will arrive. President of the Jamaica Independent Schools Association, Dr. Faithlyn Wilson, says she too is concerned.
We are concerned about the development of Jamaica, and that is our primary concern, many of us, for becoming part of the private education system. And so whether or not it affects us, and because this kind of delay means a delay in the reopening of the public schools.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Now, the national top boy and girl in the 2021 primary exit profile PEP exam wants face-to-face classes to resume. Viranja Biraji, who attended the Hosanna Kindergarten and Preparatory School, says remote classes are riddled with challenges.
Well, I did not like the online. As I said before, the internet connections is unstable most of the times.
I had to stay disciplined and focused during classes and ensure that I was paying attention.
Their parents also wanted them to return to the physical classroom.
As he said, if it's there for him to go tomorrow, he would go. I know for sure, not him, neither us, really appreciate the online classes. Face-to-face is the way to go, and we would love to have that as soon as possible.
Yesterday is not soon enough for the kids to be back out there in a social environment where they can meet each other, where they can be taught face-to-face by their teachers. My heart goes out to all of the students in Jamaica and going through this pandemic. But better will come, and we have faith, and they continue to learn as best as possible using the mediums that they have right now. But we continue to stand in faith that it will improve.
Kyla and Virandra matriculated to Campion College. Recently, the Guardian Group Foundation awarded the two with scholarships valued at $100,000 each for 5 years at the secondary school level. And our news center will this week release the highly anticipated RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll results on political issues. The findings on the performance of the opposition People's National Party will be made public this afternoon, while the results on the ruling Jamaica Labour Party will be released tomorrow. The party standings will be aired on Wednesday. Now, the results will be released during primetime news at 7 p.m. The poll was conducted August 19 to September 3 among 1,003 Jamaicans. And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. A man is now dead following a motor vehicle crash along the Amos Mead Road in St. Elizabeth this morning. He has been identified as 24 years old, Shim Marine Wright, a construction worker of Leeds District. It's reported that around 9:30, Mr. Wright was driving a motorbike towards Santa Cruz when he overtook another vehicle and collided into a red Toyota Corolla motor car, which was traveling in the opposite direction. He was flung from his bike into bushes. It's understood that he was not wearing a helmet. The driver of the motor car was not injured. The restrictions on movement since the pandemic has not stopped the alarming number of crashes on the nation's roadways. Speaking on Smile Jamaica this morning, head of the JCF's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Plead, says the police intends to increase monitoring during curfew hours.
More than 100 persons have died in road crashes during curfew hours since the start of the year. Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Gary Mackenzie, describes this as shocking given the restrictions.
What we have seen is that a number of persons have found reason to drive at excessive speeds because we have recognized that excessive speeding contributes to most of those crashes.
ACP Mackenzie says most of the deaths were persons who are not supposed to be on the road during the period.
We have seen where some of the road deaths, the category of road users are persons who are really not supposed to be on the road.
He says although police officers have been enforcing the Disaster Risk Management Act, increased vigilance will be heightened during this period. And Acting Director of the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Works, Deidre Hudson Sinclair, says there has been an uptick in road fatalities during the curfew hours in certain parishes.
We recognize that there are particular places, I wouldn't necessarily call them hotspot, but we notice there's an uptick, especially in, fatalities. So take, for instance, you notice the curfew hours, and we recognize that motorcyclists represent the large margin of fatalities overall. But during curfew hours, we notice particularly they represent 36% of those fatalities, and they're happening in the western region, St. James, and also in St. Catherine, north and south.
She's appealing to road users to adhere to the curfew hours.
When we look at the data, we recognize there are another 20% in terms of the fatalities during this particular time. So we really want to appeal to to everyone, to all our citizens, whether you drive or walk. The resources that are, being spent for persons in hospital, they're finite, and that, curfew hours are meant to protect us. And we really want to engage persons in actually adhering to those rules.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Mayor of Port Maria, Richard Creary, is not pleased with the handling of the procurements at the Port Maria Municipal Corporation. He expressed his frustration at the recent monthly meeting. Sandy Williams reports.
In January, the Port Maria Market in St. Mary was officially opened. The structure was ready to house vendors, but the stalls were not enough to facilitate all of them. It's why the Port Maria Municipal Corporation requested more stalls to be made for the market. The Ministry of Local Government had allocated funds to the corporation to construct additional stalls. But after 3 months, the corporation is still stuck at the procurement process.
My understanding is that Tankwell is the only supplier of these materials. Yes, we could buy it at a local hardware and we're probably going to pay more. Right? So we purchased at Tankwell the last time we did stalls. Now, my understanding why the process is taking 3 months is because rather than we did the last time to point out single source Tankwell because they are the supplier, we are now for 3 months or 2 months doing a procurement to get other quotations rather than just do what we did the previous time.
And Mayor of Port Maria, Richard Creary, is not pleased.
So 3 months has passed since the money is here. As I said, we could have done all of this before the money even come in. To do the prep work, to know, say, all right, once the money comes, this is what we do. 3 months soap, and we don't purchase one piece of metal all now. While the people at the market are awaiting the stalls. People over there have to be using some little table, whatever. Ministry send the money. 3 months later, soap don't buy one piece of metal.
I was given the document yesterday, and the CMD has started the process of the purchase. They should be getting, Tankwell should be getting paid by this Friday, so that I can get metal sometime next week.
Well, finally we're getting somewhere, but I am tired of hearing these matters pertaining to procurement. And it's not the first we hear in this type of thing. I need this matter ventilated in terms of the stewardship of the person who handles our procurement.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
With more cruise arrivals on the horizon, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett has outlined a new system which he believes will benefit attractions and craft market vendors. Mr. Bartlett was speaking with our news team following his recent return from Portugal as he seeks to boost the country's tourism arrivals through new mergers. Following complaints by some craft vendors in Otrier-Saint-Anne that they were not able to benefit from the arrival of a Carnival sunrise last Monday, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says that will be addressed. He says instructions have been given to various agencies under his ministry to have vendors and attractions on a rotation basis.
Cruise will be back fully, and all our craft vendors in the old way will continue to get your service. And I know the difficulty there is, it's a competitive field, but we're going to be resetting that whole exercise.
The tourism minister also addressed concerns that the spike in COVID cases is due to the opening of the country's borders. Mr. Bartlett has hit back, stating that the current economic growth is mainly driven by tourism.
Sometimes it is unfortunate to hear comments when people are not sure what tourism is about and try to suggest that it is tourists versus Jamaica. It's not. So if we lose the impact of tourism, we're going to lose the growth momentum of the economy, and we're going to have difficulties with our foreign exchange, as we will have problems in buying the food that we need and the drugs that we require.
Dr. Leslie Mead is the new president of the Medical Association of Jamaica, MAJ. Dr. Mead was honorary secretary of the association. He defeated neurosurgeon Dr. Roger Hunt. Dr. Mead specializes in obstetrics, gynecology, and public health. And for the latest in the world of business, here's Cody and Barrett with a Business Minute.
Airports. The operators of Sangster International Airport is not yet contemplating making COVID-19 vaccination mandatory for its employees. CEO of MBJ, Shane Monroe, says the company has been encouraging workers to get vaccinated.
We are still not yet at that 50% mark in terms of our own staff and vaccination. Ultimately, we believe that we'll have a greater take-up over time, and know that there are different vaccines available. We have seen some persons having preference for one over another. So that is our strategy for now.
In the meantime, on the international scene, the U.S. is planning to ease travel restrictions for international visitors who are vaccinated against COVID-19. The White House released on Monday that non-citizens visiting the United States will have to show proof of vaccination and a negative COVID test taken within 3 days of departure. The changes will take effect in early November, which the airline industry expects will spur holiday bookings.
Now for the top regional and international stories. In news from the region, Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, wants at least 50,000 people to be vaccinated against COVID-19 in the next 5 weeks. She said that would determine when curfews and other restrictions would be eased and eventually lifted, as the country would be much closer to herd immunity. Currently, just under 6,500 people are being vaccinated in Barbados weekly. A senior Haitian American Democratic legislator in New York is urging United States President Joe Biden to halt the planned deportation of Haitian migrants from southern Texas. The Biden administration on Saturday said it would begin deporting thousands of Haitians who have migrated at the southern border in the past week after illegally entering the U.S. But the Haitian American Democratic legislator cited the recent upheaval in the country, to include the earthquake and the assassination of the country's president, as reasons for the U.S. government to rethink its position. Further afield, investigators in Russia say at least 6 people have been killed and dozens wounded in a mass shooting at Perm University. Investigators say the shooter was wounded by police before being arrested. Perm is located more than 700 miles or about 1,100 kilometers east of Moscow. And drug makers Pfizer and BioNTech announced in a press release on Monday that its COVID-19 vaccine is safe and generates a robust immune response in a clinical trial of kids ages 5 to 11. According to the drug makers, the shots were well tolerated and produced an immune response and the side effects comparable to those seen in a study of people ages 16 to 25. And that's it for the top regional and international stories. And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have your Midday Sports report.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. The Jamaica Football Federation have confirmed that their next home game against Canada on October 10 in World Cup qualifying will be played at the National Stadium. There was a discussion over if this fixture would be played overseas. However, the JFF have decided to have this game on the island. The JFF will be seeking permission from the government of Jamaica to allow spectators into a fraction of the capacity of the stadium. The proposal to the government is for interested persons to show proof of full vaccination for attendance. The Reggae Boys will next be in action on October 7 against the United States, away in Texas before hosting Canada on October 10. They will end the October window of World Cup qualifiers away to Honduras. The Reggae Boys are at the foot of the table on 1 point. Reggae Boys winger Blair Turgott scored a hat-trick for Swedish side Östersunds as they defeated Elfsborg 3-1 in the Swedish top flight over the weekend. The 27-year-old scored in the 22nd, 39th and 80th minutes to bring his tally to 8 goals for the season. This was also Turgott's second hat-trick of the season as he moved up to 6th in the Golden Boot race. Turgott has made 6 appearances for the Reggae Boys since his debut in June. Jamaican Andre Russell and the Calcutta Knight Riders comprehensively defeated the Royal Challengers Bangalore by 9 wickets in the Indian Premier League in Abu Dhabi a short while ago. Batting first, RCB were bowled out for 92 in 19 overs. Russell was the pick of the KKR bowlers with figures of 3 for 9 from his 3 overs. In reply, KKR raced to their target with 10 overs to spare, thanks to Shubman Gill, who top scored with 48. IPL action continues on Tuesday as Chris Gale, Fabian Allen and the Punjab Kings will battle Ashane Thomas's Rajasthan Royals. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Ashane, it is over to you.
Thanks, Simon. And that's the Midday News. I'm Ashane Masters. Join us at 7 for Prime Time News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.